Okay, so AI, right. It's
Sure.
like inescapable these days. Robots, jobs, the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's everywhere you look, isn't it? Headlines, social media.
But for those of us, who really want to get into the weeds a little bit with the stuff, it's more than just a headline, right?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about separating the hype from the reality.
Exactly. And figuring out what it actually means. Like for us in our work, in our lives, like how do we even start to make sense of it all?
Well, that's what we're here for, right? To cut through the noise and have a real conversation about AI and specifically how it's showing up in the workplace.
Yes, exactly. No more robot overlords, no more singularity stuff. We're getting down to the practicalities.
The actual ways AI is being used, the impact it's having, on real people, on their everyday jobs.
Yeah, and what skills? What skills do we need to not just survive, but to thrive, right?
Exactly. It's about adapting and evolving.
Exactly. Okay, so first up, can we just acknowledge the elephant in the room? The terminology alone can be overwhelming.
Oh, I know, right?
It's like AI, Gen AI, machine learning, deep learning.
It's like alphabet soup sometimes.
It's a lot, so let's break it down. What are the real differences here? And more importantly, for folks who are mid and new to this, what kind of content are we even talking about when we say Gen AI?
Okay, so at its core, AI, think of it like a superpowered assistant. It analyzes massive amounts of data to help us make better predictions and decisions. Like, imagine having a team of tireless analysts working around the clock, crunching numbers, spotting trends, all to give you an edge.
It's like having a crystal ball, but powered by data.
Exactly. Now, Gen AI, this is where things get really interesting. Think of it like the creative side of AI. It can generate different kinds of content, whether it's text, code, images, even music, you name it.
So from analyzing data to actually creating things, that's a big leap.
It is, and it's happening right now. We're seeing Gen AI being used to write marketing copy, create personalized emails, even compose music for video games.
Okay, hold on. AI writing marketing copy. I need to see this to believe it.
Oh, it's real, and it's getting better all the time. And it's not just about replacing human creativity. It's about augmenting it, freeing us up to focus on strategy, on the big picture, while AI handles the more routine tasks.
Okay, that part I like. More time for strategy sounds pretty good. But can we get specific? What are some real-world examples of this tech in action? Like, what's the actual impact beyond the hype?
Sure, let's take sales forecasting, for example. In the past, predicting sales was, let's be honest, a bit of a guessing game.
A lot of spreadsheets, a lot of gut feeling.
Exactly. But now, AI can analyze mountains of data, from past sales to social media trends, even weather patterns, to generate incredibly accurate sales forecasts. We're talking about companies improving their forecast accuracy by like 20%, sometimes even more.
Wow, that's huge. But that's like a big picture business benefit, right? What about the impact on like an individual level? Are regular employees actually seeing AI change their day-to-day work?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most powerful examples I've seen is in healthcare. I mean, imagine you're a doctor, right? You went to med school to treat patients, not spend hours on paperwork.
Yeah, the paperwork is legendary.
It is. But now, with AI-powered tools, doctors can dictate their notes, and the system automatically transcribes them into structured medical records.
Okay, so AI doing the data entry, I can see the appeal there.
It's a game changer. And it frees up doctors to spend more time with their patients, which is, the whole point, right?
Absolutely. So it's not about replacing jobs. It's about making those jobs more human.
Exactly. It's about using AI to enhance what we do best.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits, but let's address the elephant in the room, the impact on jobs. Is AI coming for our jobs, or are there ways we can, work alongside it?
It's the question everyone's asking. And honestly, it's a bit of both. Some jobs will inevitably become automated. That's just the reality. But AI is also creating new opportunities. The key is to be prepared for that shift.
So how do we prepare? If someone's listening to this, maybe a little bit concerned about their future career, what should they be focusing on?
First and foremost, don't panic. Nobody's expecting you to become an AI expert overnight. But there are some key areas to focus on. One of them is what we call data fluency.
Data fluency. Okay, now that's a new one on me. What exactly does that mean?
It's all about becoming comfortable with data. You don't need to be a data scientist, but you need to be able to understand basic data concepts, how to interpret data, and how it's used to make decisions.
Okay, so like being able to speak data even if I'm not writing the dictionary.
Exactly. Think of it as a new language. The language of the future, really.
The language of data. I like it. Okay, so data fluency, check. What else?
Well, in a world where AI can give us answers, critical thinking becomes even more important.
Meaning being able to ask the right questions.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's adaptability and a willingness to learn new things because this field is constantly evolving.
So it's not about learning one new skill, it's about constantly learning new skills.
Exactly. A growth mindset is essential.
Okay, so we've got the technical skills covered, but what about like the human element?
Ah, yes. The things that make us human are more important than ever. Creativity, empathy, communication, collaboration. These are the skills that AI can't replicate.
So it's not about like humans versus AI.
No, not at all. It's about humans and AI working together.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. The quality of the input we're giving these systems.
You're absolutely right. It's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out. You can have the most sophisticated AI in the world, but if you feed it bad data, biased data, the output will be flawed.
So responsible AI isn't just about the technology itself, it's about the choices we make and how we use it.
Exactly. It's about ethics, transparency, and making sure AI is used for good.
Which is a whole other conversation we could have.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a big one. Responsible AI, I mean, it's not just a buzzword, it's crucial. We have to be mindful of the ethical implications of this technology.
Absolutely. And I think it's easy to get caught up in the wow factor of AI, all the cool things it can do.
Right, but we can't forget about the potential downsides. Like take that example of garbage in, garbage out.
Right. Bad data in, bad decisions out. But how does that actually play out in the real world?
Well, let's say you're a bank using an AI system to evaluate loan applications.
Sounds efficient, right?
Sure, automate the process.
Exactly. But what if that system was trained on data that, even unintentionally, had bias baked into it? Like maybe the data skewed towards a certain demographic or zip code.
Okay, so now you're talking about perpetuating existing inequalities.
Exactly. And that's just one example. We've seen similar issues with AI in hiring, in criminal justice, even in healthcare. If the data we feed these systems reflects our own biases, the AI is just going to amplify those biases.
It's like that saying, you are what you eat, but for AI. Exactly. So responsible AI is about being aware of those biases and taking steps to mitigate them. It's about ensuring the data is as accurate and representative as possible. And it's about constantly monitoring these systems to make sure they're not causing harm.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the human element, the choices we make in how we design, develop, and deploy these systems.
100%. It's about building ethics into the process from the ground up.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does that look like? If a company wants to implement AI responsibly, what are some key things to consider?
Data governance is a big one. Having clear guidelines and processes for how you collect, store, and use data. That includes protecting privacy, ensuring accuracy, and minimizing bias.
So like a code of conduct for data.
Exactly. And it's not just about having the rules, it's about creating a culture where everyone understands the importance of data ethics.
It's like data responsibility is everyone's job.
Exactly. And transparency is crucial too. The more open we are about how these systems work, the data they use, the decisions they're making, the more accountable we can be.
Transparency builds trust, right? Especially because, let's face it, a lot of us already feel like these algorithms are kind of a black box.
I get that. We want to feel like we have some agency, some understanding of how these decisions are being made. And that's fair.
Absolutely. So responsible AI, it's about mitigating harm, but it's also about, like, what are we aiming for? What kind of future are we trying to build with this technology?
That's the question, isn't it? It's not enough to just avoid the negative. We have to be intentional about using AI for good, to solve real-world problems, to create a more equitable and just society.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture, the societal impact, but let's bring it back down to an individual level. For someone listening who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, what advice would you give them? How do you navigate this rapidly changing world of work?
First of all, I'd say take a deep breath. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and the fear, but remember, you're not alone in this. We're all figuring it out as we go.
It's a journey.
It is, and like any journey, it's important to be prepared. So focus on developing those key skills we talked about. Data fluency, critical thinking, adaptability.
Embrace the learning process.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out for help, to connect with others, to build your network. The more you learn, the more you connect, the less daunting it all seems.
It's about building that support system, that community of people who get it. Because let's face it, this stuff can be a lot to process sometimes.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers. It's okay to ask questions, to experiment, to make mistakes even.
Embrace the unknown.
Yes. And remember, AI is a tool. It's up to us to use it wisely, ethically, and creatively. And who knows, we might even have some fun along the way.
Okay, I like that. So learn, connect, and don't forget to have some fun. But what about the skills, the actual skills people need to thrive in this AI-powered world? So data fluency, critical thinking, adaptability, and a healthy dose of curiosity and humor. I like it. But let's talk about something a little more, well, human. How do people deal with the emotional side of all this? Because it's easy to get caught up in the fear, right? Robots taking over, the whole nine yards.
Oh, absolutely. Change can be scary, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as work. But I think it's important to remember that we're not powerless in this situation. We have agency. We can shape how this technology impacts our lives.
Easier said than done sometimes. So for someone who's listening, who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, what advice would you give them?
First and foremost, I'd say don't let fear paralyze you. Embrace a growth mindset. Be curious. Ask questions. Explore. There are so many resources available online, courses, communities where you can learn about AI, experiment with it, figure out how it intersects with your own interests and skills.
So take control of your own learning journey.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out to others who are on the same path. Networking is more important than ever in this rapidly changing world. Find mentors, build relationships, share your experiences, learn from each other.
It's about building that support system, that community.
Exactly. Because, let's face it, this stuff can be confusing, it can be overwhelming, and it's always better to navigate it together.
Absolutely. And on that note of navigating this together, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. But before we do, any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they embark on their own AI adventures?
If I could leave you with one thought, it would be this. Approach AI with a sense of curiosity, not fear. This technology has the potential to revolutionize the way we live and work, but it's up to us to ensure that revolution is a positive one.
So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged in the conversation. Because the future of AI isn't something that's just happening to us, it's something we're all creating together. And on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for sharing their incredible insights and for, well, just being awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope you've learned something new, challenged your assumptions, and maybe even come away feeling a little more optimistic about the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.